Hello, welcome to Off the Shelf Reviews.
I want you to thrill me.
And I'm Gary. And today we're going to review and discuss Night of the Creeps, which came out in 1986 from writer-director Fred Dekker. Ian, why don't you give us the synopsis?
Well, the story follows a pair of American university students, JC and Chris. Chris has fallen in love with a girl, Cynthia Cronenberg. But her boyfriend Brad has set JC and Chris up to do a prank. Their mission is to steal a frozen cadaver. But the one they steal has been frozen for 27 years and has been housing alien slugs in its brain. Now the slugs are free and the creeps are loose.
Oh, I got good news and bad news, girls. The good news is your dates are here.
What's the bad news?
They're dead.
And I think it's safe to say I definitely have a love-hate relationship with this writer-director. I think this film's great. You know, and I also really love Monster Squad.
Oh,
you know, and I really like House as well.
Yeah.
But then this same guy would go on to do RoboCop 3.
Oh, that's a classic. That one is. The Pimpmobile.
And then 2018's The Predator. You're just like, no, just no. And it's kind of almost tainted everything else this guy's ever worked on now.
Well, in fairness, I mean, in fairness, I've been really looking forward to doing this film because, like, it's noted as being a classic.
Oh, it absolutely is.
It's noted for being a classic, but I don't know what it is with me in this movie. Watching it for the review, this is my second time of actually watching it all the way through. But I must have seen this film in bits at least between 8 and 10 times over the course of my life. You know, I've heard of it, people praise it, you know, but for me there was just something missing from this movie. So when Gary and Jez did the Slither review, and the comment section kind of lit up with people saying, oh, Night of the Creeps is a hell of a lot better than Slither, I was like, I don't believe that. So actually, when it came to us watching the film, I'm like, okay, I've got to analyze this motherfucker as close as I can. And yeah, I did not check the director. I have to admit, I did not. Now, Monster Squad's fun. It's fun. It's a great kids movie. The Predator, not fun. No, it's not. And RoboCop 3?
Sorry for reminding you that exists.
But I mean, how many times have you seen this? Is it this?
I think this is like the third time seeing this.
The third time seeing this through, and
But this is the sort of, I mean, this is without a doubt a cult classic, and it appears in all of the celebration of horror movie documentaries and showcases.
I totally get that, but it's like I was saying to you before we started recording, you and I had never. You know, in the years that we've known each other, we've never had a chance to just throw Night of the Creeps on. I know so many people who've watched films, grown up with these people. This movie never turned up on my list. You know, it's not like people were throwing this movie in my face and saying, you have to watch it. And I needed to know why. And for me, I think compared to Slither, this movie is a jumble of ideas that some of them stick and some of them don't. So, for example, the start of this movie starts with this bold, weird alien baby thing running through a spaceship carrying this capsule. Now, he's being chased by these two baby weird alien things with lasers. And my universal translator may have been broken while I was watching this film because I have no idea what the fuck they were saying to each other.
Wasn't it even subtitled as well?
It was subtitled in Alien that I was like...
Now, all of this entire sequence, all it's doing is letting you know that it's going to be okay to laugh at this film.
It's
telling you that this is comedy right off the get-go. And seeing those weird-looking aliens with their fixed facial expressions, running through this ship, it was great. Like, you got all of the aliens, like, kind of scenery, the smoke and the ventilations.
Yeah, it was nice. It reminded me of Critters. This whole beginning bit reminded me of the beginning of Critters and the Krites escaping. And I honestly think the Critters did it better because this one sets it up nice. Okay, here's this tube, some weird aliens. He fires it off. Now, why is he firing it off? Is he a bad alien? Is he a good alien? We don't know. Are the other aliens trying to stop him from letting it go or release? I don't know. But then the film takes a weird bit of a turn, because we cut to Earth, 1959, and it all turns black and white.
And I thought everything was black and white in the 50s.
Yeah. I mean, nobody invented colour until they dropped the bomb in the 60s. So, that's when colour, Mickey Mouse kind of took over the world. No, I read somewhere that the director wanted to record the whole movie in black and white.
Yeah, because this is a massive throwback, a tribute to 1950s sci-fi horror. So why not make the entire film black and white?
Yeah. Well, that's a really good idea. But I also think, for me, that's where the director may have lost his way, because he's trying to call back to the 1950s, 60s sci-fi movies. We've had the aliens, we've got the 50s setup, and we find out through information that this girl Pam has broken up with her boyfriend Ray, who's a police officer, who's everyone's saying is never going to have a life anymore, even though he's got a job, compared to this Johnny guy who's your average 50s jock, and him and Pam get together. I like the little where he's throwing stones at the window. Oh, yeah. So sweet. Don't do that. You'll crack the fucking windows. It's, even double glazing, that shit fucking... And they drive out, don't they? They drive
They're
out.
at make-out point.
They're the make-out point, and, they're having a little time. And Ray, the police officer, comes across and tells them that they've got to get out of there, no making out at this point. And he says something like, wishing on a shooting star. And you see the capsule shoot over everybody's head, which is great. It takes me back to, Killer Clowns from Outer Space, or The Blob. Hundreds of alien invasion movies have started like this. And they all start the same, because Johnny goes, hey, I'm going to go look at that.
Hell yeah. Ain't got time to make out anymore. Let's go. He drives off and he pulls over and he's like, no, you stay in the car. I'm going to go exploring.
Yeah.
And then on the radio, it announces that there is a psycho axe-wielding killer. And it just happens to be on Route 66 on this highway.
Yes. Which I thought that bit was great. Pam hears the information on the radio and then she turns on the light and there's the sign. And Johnny has wandered out into the forest, come across the capsule, and just as the axe-wielding maniac has walked up on Pam, we see the slug thing shoot out into Johnny's mouth. And the film cuts to black and shoots to 1986, Pledge Week. Now, that's where slightly my issues might start to come in.
No.
Well, because, okay, so this axe murderer has just killed this girl, yeah, and the boy has gone off and this thing has gone into his mouth, and then we jump 27 years later, and there just seems to be no after effects.
Well, we'd soon find out why.
Right, okay.
Because we get introduced to these characters who are trying to get into this sorority.
Yeah.
They want to get into the betas.
Yeah.
And they are given a challenge to go and find a corpse to lay at the steps of another fraternity.
Yeah.
And that's one way that they will get into the betas. And it's only when they go snooping around the science facility that they find the corpse of the guy from the intro to the film.
In stasis, cryogenic stasis, underneath the university, locked in a high security room.
Yeah.
The dean doesn't care, the mayor doesn't care, the parents, they've been living here for 27 years, nobody cares. Even our main characters who have come to steal this body, JC and Chris. Chris, played by Jason Lively, and JC, played by Steve Marshall. Now, they are your atypical, nerdy, not cool type of characters. But JC seems to be suffering from some bone leg thing because he's constantly got to use crutches to help himself around. And he is the best friend to Chris. And so he will do anything to help Chris. And Chris is just like, well, I'm in love with that girl over there who I've never met before. And I have no idea who she is. But I'm immediately just throwing myself at her. And yeah, like Gary said, the way to get closer to these girls is to pull this prank for the top, echelon fraternity group led by Brad, who just so happens to be Cynthia's boyfriend. Awkward?
Very much.
Very much. Now, like, Dekker did really well with, obviously, the names of the characters. So, like, Chris is known as Chris Romero. George Romero there. JC is James Carpenter.
Yeah, I believe his middle name is also Hooper.
Hooper!
So you're mixing John Carpenter and Toby Hooper.
I mean, Cynthia Cronenberg.
Yeah.
Cronenberg, and so a lot of this film, is the director just
name dropping.
Yeah,
you've also got
ideas.
Raimi, you've got Landis, you've got Miner. Yeah, there's so many name drops, and we often see this though in comedies, especially comedy horrors. They like to reference all of their peers, all of their favorite horror directors.
Yeah, and it's really cool, but the film also has to have some substance with it, or I can't talk for everybody else, or I'm going to get lost, and then I'm going to start questioning, and then I'm going to make up excuses for myself. So, for example, like we said, Brad has given Chris and JC the chance to get into the Baters, or not really, he's not going to allow them in there, but he says, oh yeah, go to the morgue, steal us a body, and throw it on the steps of this other fraternity house, and we'll think about letting you in. And so the boys go to the morgue, and while this lab assistant is distracted trying to get the code to get into the very room that he works in, JC just happens to walk up and press like one button and the door opens, and they walk in there and they see the body. Now, this body has been cryogenically frozen for 27 years. So somebody found the body,
and brought it back to the school.
And took it to the school. And before the aliens could escape, because we'll get into how the aliens do their thing, before the aliens could escape and infect anybody, they threw it in I didn't even know they had cryogenic stasis in 1959.
Only in the movies.
Only in the movies. And somebody at this university decided to keep this body around. For what?
For science.
What were they studying?
The effects of cryogenesis on the human tissue.
Didn't his parents wonder where he went? Wasn't he implicated in the murder of his girlfriend, who's just been axed up by a killer whose body has disappeared? No. I
think there might have been a cover-up.
Wasn't much of a cover-up, because it's literally one dude who covered it up.
Do tell, Iain, do tell.
well, when they do take the body out of the stasis, it briefly comes alive, and the two of them are absolutely scared and go running from the lab, screaming like banshees. And the lab assistant comes back, realizes the door is open, sees the body, and one of the slug things shoots out of Johnny's zombie corpse into his mouth. So you know that now the kind of infection is spreading. But that's what I'm saying is, like, he didn't need long for that slug to shoot out of his mouth. Now maybe the slug needs to go into the body, into the brain, and then create more slugs before it can shoot some out. So when Johnny was first impregnated, he was dead, so they took him to the morgue. But then I don't understand how he got into the cryostasis.
Yeah, no.
I don't. Tom Atkins, though, plays Ray Cameron, Detective Ray Cameron, and he's the Ray from the beginning of the movie. And he has been living with the guilt of his girlfriend being hacked up by an axe murderer and then killing said axe murderer and burying his body in an undisclosed lot.
We get the clues to this in this awesome dream sequence where Tom Atkins is in this pimpin' white suit.
Yeah.
And he sees his old girlfriend sort of emerging out of the ocean.
Yeah.
And as, then reality and guilt all starts to kick in as he jumps awake. I'm just like, that was a pretty pimpin' suit.
Yeah, but like... Has he always suffered from those dreams?
I'd imagine so, yeah.
Is it only recently just happened through a psychic link with the zombie corpse that's come back to life?
Possibly, or the fact that he is now just this jaded, rough round the edges cop who's got this, this history now, which has made him this way.
Well, that's the thing. Like, why kill the serial killer and hide the body, knowing full well that he could have just claimed self-defense after killing him? And two... Once he buried said body from his partner, because his partner was dealing with Johnny's corpse, he just kind of now lives with the guilt of killing this guy? Why stay in the town?
These are good questions.
You see, this is where my mind goes, where people go, Ian, you should really just switch your brain off. And
it is a comedy, so that's why I tend to just forgive all of those things. I'm like, these things need to happen for this story to work. And it's a comedy, so I kind of just go, it's fine.
I know it's a comedy, but it's also trying to be a little bit too much.
Yeah.
Because it's trying to be a sci-fi horror and a homage to 1950s, 60s sci-fi movies that weren't comedies. And then it is trying to be its own little thing of being a comedy, which then I slightly get afraid that it becomes a parody of the things that it's trying to pay homage to, that it's trying to pay honor to. Because... the film's not very long anyway, and it does speed along, so it does feel like there are some things that just are missing just to keep the movie going.
I will say, like, the first 40 minutes of the film, there is a lot of teen angsty drama of, I fancy this girl.
Yeah.
Oh, you're too wooden. You don't have any guts. You'll never go and talk to this girl. But I really like this girl, and I don't want to have sex with this girl, but you'll never have sex with this girl until you talk to this girl. And it's just like, it goes on and on and on.
But I think we missed that because we're not in the 80s. Like, I was thinking, you remember Brewster from Fright Night?
Sure.
And his buddy, I think it's Eddie. Yeah. They were kind of the same conflictive relationship, but I felt more sorry for Brewster's buddy dying and becoming a vampire. Where in this, JC has gotten to the point where he's fucking annoying me now, and I'm looking forward to something harsh happening to him, simply just to keep the pace of the movie going. Like you said, there's a great moment where in the movie where JC and Chris are in their bedroom, and Chris is giving JC shit for being the way that JC is. And I really related at this point to JC, because he turned around and he's just like, fuck you, Chris. Fuck you. All I do is fucking help you. All I do is fucking support you, all your ideas, all this, and I'm there just for you. And what do I get for it? Nothing.
I mean, it's better than acting like jerks for no reason, right? So yeah, everything is a joke. It's hilarious because if you take it seriously, you just get depressed all the time, like you are. So fuck you.
But then the movie kind of flips his character again, where he doesn't really want anything. And I'm like, well, he should have at least a love interest. But the lab assistant who was infected has gone to the morgue, and then he's gotten up and just walked away.
There's a great moment where he walks right past the cop who's just like, have a good evening.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And JC and Chris have been picked up by Tom Atkins' character, along with the cleaner, who says that he witnessed them running away screaming like banshees.
Screaming like banshees?
It was a nervous response.
And so they try to give it. They're just like, look, we didn't move the body. Because the corpse that they left in the lab had gotten up, walked all the way to the girls' sorority house, and had confronted Cynthia. And his head had exploded, and all of the worms had popped out. Now, is it something with these zombies that they have to go to the place that they remember? Or that they just carry on doing the things that they were planning on doing? Because, for example, like the corpse, Johnny's corpse, it walks back to the sorority house and it throws stones up to the window, just like it did at the beginning. You know, like the lab assistant, he returns to the lab and attacks the cleaner. And then
so maybe the slugs are regaining some of the memories of the host brains that they're consuming.
Yeah, well,
because the zombies seem to be on autopilot.
That's it. Well, the slugs, I get from the slugs that their main thing is to breed.
Sure.
Is to make more, and so that's what they're constantly doing. But through ingesting the brains of the victim, they take on their memories and then set them on autopilot just to head to somewhere, because Cynthia and Chris kind of get together and JC leaves them alone because he needs to take a shit, basically. And while he's in the toilet, he's confronted by the cleaner who kills himself. Like after a while, the slugs just kill you. Like how did those slugs even know that JC was in the toilet? They must have seen him and then followed him in there.
Maybe.
and JC confronts one and he burns it. He has a bit of a scuffle, and then the slug thing kind of launches himself at him, and it cuts to black. And then it cuts to another day. So like we've had 3 days to go over this thing since the cadaver has escaped, and the slugs are spreading
all over campus.
We say all over campus. It's literally the girls' sorority house.
Yeah.
And I think that's it.
That's
it. That's it. None of the rest of the town is affected. You know, the cops are so incompetent. The only person who fucking pretty much has a kind of a clue what's going on is Tom Atkins' character. But then he still technically doesn't believe what's going on until he's confronted because the slugs have gone to the sorority house, they've escaped, and they're going all over the place. So they've gone inside the body of a cat.
Yep.
and the cat comes back from the dead, and we have this scene that we'd already had with one of the girls talking to the cat, and now it's got worms on its face. Did they kill it? Did they burn it? Did more worms come out of it?
Don't know. We
never find out. They literally just let this cat go. One of the slugs slides underneath the house of the den mother of the sorority house, and it gets into the body of the axe murderer. Now, I know I have a few problems with this movie, and I'm sorry for all of this, but what we understand is that the slugs get into the human body, ingest eggs in your brain,
right?
Eat your brain, I'm assuming, to feed the slugs, and then
and send your walking corpse on autopilot to find more hosts for these slugs.
Right, yeah. And we've already had the piece of information from one of the sorority girls that she's putting human brains in the basement of the house for her science project.
Of course.
Because, yeah. But here's the thing, right? So the slug goes underneath the den mother's house and gets into the body of the axe murderer. Now, he's been under there for 27 years. Are you telling me he's still got enough brain in his skull to not only come back to life...
Maybe there's another cryogenic chamber underneath the house too that we just don't know about. I will say it makes for a really cool sequence when you hear the hammering, the banging before the floorboards get ripped open, and this axe-wielding zombie-infested alien gets up and goes and kills the den mother.
Yeah, but why didn't he give her a slug? Why did he axe her up?
Because he's a serial killer, but he's fighting his alien nature now.
So the slug has taken on that mentality and been I'll be a psycho killer. And Tom Atkins and a bunch of the cops confront this corpse. Now, it's a proper fucking corpse. It's fucking rotted. It's barely having it. It looks great, a special effect. And then they blast it in the chest, and the thing's still standing. So.
Well, no, Tom Atkins, shotgun blasts it to the head.
Yeah, well, they shoot it first to the chest, and it's still standing. And then he blasts it to the head, and the slugs all pop out. And that just seems to be too much for Tom Atkins, because he seems to, at this point, go home, seal his door, and decide to gas himself. Chris, at this point, has returned back to his room. He's quite happy about himself. He's got a date with Cynthia, but because she's dumped Brad, because Brad's a dick. Brad has Brad is about to be taken over by one of these alien slug things because the den mother's dog
is also now infected.
Is now infected as well, and shoots one into his mouth. So Brad's dead. But Chris comes across a tape recording from JC, and it's basically JC's suicide message, telling us that he feels the slug inside his brain. So I don't know how long they have.
Well, this is the biggest inconsistency for me in the entire film. Yes, this one.
Okay.
Because, like, we've not seen a shred of any other person being infected and having any control. It's game over the moment the slug goes in the mouth.
Yeah. Well,
except for this guy who's got a chance to, go home, record an entire message, figure all this stuff out, and then wander off to kill himself and the slugs that are inside him.
Yeah. Now, we get from JC that heat is the thing that kills these slugs. And this is what throws me off, because I was like, oh, he throws himself in the furnace. But then we follow Chris down into the basement, and he finds JC's corpse just lying there with the slugs on the floor. So the basement is just so hot that the creatures blew out of his head to escape, but couldn't get very far. It's a poor ending for JC, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, he wasn't a great character, but still, you could have... I would have much preferred seeing him climb in the furnace like the guy from Return of the Living Dead.
Sure,
You know, and had a bit of emotional... Maybe even a final confrontation between him and Chris having to kill his friend because his friend's like, kill me. No, he just...
Yeah, it was a bit of a waste, I think.
Yeah. But Chris goes then to Tom Atkins' house, and like I said, Tom Atkins was planning on fucking gassing himself at this point because of the guilt. And he rips all the tape off, and Chris is just like, look, they got my friend, you need to help me. And so the two of them head to the police station.
Yep, there's only one man in all of 80s horror movies that can save the day.
Well, the thing is, Walter, what I need is... I need your basic flamethrower.
Flamethrower? Flamethrower?
Yeah.
Dick Miller, once again, playing Walter Paisley.
It is great watching him just turn around. Like, I thought this was so funny because he's handing out weapons.
Right.
You know, and I'm just like, this didn't end well for your buddy, in the shop. So, and it's just a great combination between him and Tom Atkins. Tom Atkins is like, well, have you got a flamethrower? And Dick Miller's just like, yeah, of course. Have you got the requisition for him? And Tom Atkins is loading his shotgun going, well, you see, click. There's a problem there. And that's another thing. Like, the police, you don't see any more police after this. The police have been kind of rushing around trying to deal with bodies falling onto campus and axe murdering corpses get all over the place. But a police officer steals a flamethrower from the basement. Nah, not a problem. Nobody comes after them. And we find out as well that the boy cool group have, it's like a night of dance that they're going for. So they're getting on a bus. How far this boy's house from the girl's house is, I don't know, but they have to travel there by bus. Or they were meeting them at some location. I'm not entirely sure, but they're on this bus and they're all drinking, which is incredibly dangerous. And the dog steps out into the middle of the road and causes the driver to crash. And then the dog climbs on board the bus, and we can only assume that he just starts
them all. Yeah.
Infecting everybody. And all of the dead boys come back to life, and like we said, with vague memories, decide now they're going to walk over to the girl's house.
Yeah.
And get them. Now, it's such a great bit. Brad has come to the house to talk to Cynthia. And she just, like this, like I know, like I said, it's a comedy. This bit is one of the funniest moments, where she completely just misses Brad.
It's her friend who opens the door first, and it's like, Cynthia, Brad's here for you. Close the door. Yeah.
Very hilarious, Brad. Cindy! Brad's here!
Great makeup. I mean, the eyes are milky, his mouth is open.
Well, I have to say, I think that the effects in the film were done by, they weren't formed at the time, but KMB Studios.
Yes,
obviously, and so some fantastic, effects. Like there's one zombie that walks up with his face missing.
Wasn't it Robert Kirkman as part of the...
Yeah.
And I always loved this about the movie was the special effects of the zombies.
Sure, yeah.
It's not a lot, but it's just enough that when Tom Atkins and Chris, they turn up at the house. Brad is spitting leeches out onto the floor. And they shoot him in the face and then flamethrower him.
Yeah.
And so Brad's dead. And Tom Atkins, he runs into the house. Now, Tom Atkins has some great one-liners in this movie. And that point where he's looking out the window and he's like, girls, your dates are here. And he does this whole thing. Good news and bad news about them being here. And it's literally down to now Cynthia and Chris to hold off as many of the zombies as they can.
Yeah.
While they're attacking the house. And it's like a combination of shooting them in the face so that the slugs explode and then flamethrowing the slugs. You know? And at the same time, Tom Atkins is inside the house and he's trying to protect the girls from inside the house. He has a crazy moment.
Well, yeah, the zombies are bursting through the windows and he's just spinning around on the spot, just blasting zombies everywhere.
Well, it's the girl, isn't it? we had that moment with the same girl with her cat. You know, we had a little comedy moment. And then the same girl, she's attacked by zombies trying to come through the back door. But she changes.
Yes.
We don't see
how she got infected or what happened.
What happened? She's just on the floor looking at the carpet, and then one moment her face has changed. She's attacking Tom Atkins, and he spins around on the spot. Now that is really stupid because from the two people outside, only fire can kill the slugs. So you've literally just killed 3 people and launched 15 odd slugs out into the way.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks. Well, after Cynthia and Chris have found out that there are brains
being stored in the basement.
Yeah, they head down there to confront it, and the slugs are
en masse, aren't they? I mean, it's a pretty cool and weird looking effect.
Slug orgy?
Yeah, pretty much, as they're devouring these brains.
Yeah, well, that's what I was trying to work out. Like, they're in the corner, so they are devouring these brains. We don't know what the kind of features the slugs have, we never see. But I played around with the idea that was a mass where maybe you had a couple of slugs at the bottom who were eating the brains and they were just replicating.
Sure,
and
the
more they're eating, the more that are getting bigger and bigger, because we get down there and Tom Atkins is there. He's got this tape on his mouth, which I've got to give credit to the actor. That gaffer tape, if you put that on your mouth and then try to pull it off while having a mustache,
goodbye, Tash.
Oh yeah, but he doesn't. That's how fucking hard Tom Atkins is. He just rips it off and just carries on his scene. I'm like, oh man. And he said something like, I'm trying to set fire to this whole place.
Yeah, he's got the gasoline can.
He's pouring the gasoline. Guys, you've got to get out of here. And this kind of pays into account to him blowing himself up earlier, is him wanting to commit suicide. Mm-hmm. Like, his girlfriend was dead. We've already had the little talk bit with him and Chris where he details all this information, and it really has been. Tom Atkins is such a great actor. He can make a completely fictional story seem like guilt.
Yeah.
Like he's been living with this. And he tells the two of them to get out of the house as he's doing all the petrol. A couple of them attack him, I believe.
Yeah.
Just before...
Well, he has that badass moment where he grabs one out of the air.
It's like, oh yeah. And he blows the house up. Now, I swear I watched a version, or maybe I just fell asleep, that ended there.
Yes.
And the boy was just like, yeah, throw me.
I believe there are a couple of alternate and different endings to the film,
right? Yeah.
Including it ending there.
Yeah,
I believe there was an ending where Cynthia gets infected by the dog who wasn't killed by a slug thing.
Yeah,
and then there's also the ending in the one that we just watched.
Yes, because once the house explodes, and you're like, oh yeah, the creatures have been killed. Cameron has saved the day. It then cuts to Detective Cameron walking. He's a burnt corpse with a fag in his mouth. And you don't know at first, but you realise that he's under the control of the slugs, because when he collapses, the slugs come shooting out of his head and they run into this place, which is a cemetery. You're like, oh no, it's going to start again. And then on top of that, the camera looks over the cemetery. Well, it looks kind of cool as a little
miniature
miniature model. And the alien ship that we saw from the beginning kind of flies over with a searchlight looking for black slugs in the dark.
Well, I'm pretty sure the aliens will take care of our slug problem for us.
Really? They didn't even take care of their problem.
I quite like that ending. It brings it all the way back. It lets you know the aliens, were real. You do remember seeing them at the beginning of the film. Yeah. Whether or not they dealt with a slug problem, whether it's sequel bait for a film that's, never gonna probably happen.
Yeah, for me, I mean, it's fun and corny, but I don't know. I think personally I prefer the ending of just them killing all the worms and Atkins being the hero at the end.
Sure.
Seeing his corpse walk away and then the slugs come out, I'm like, is it irony?
Well, it just seems
is it mocking
the trope,
him?
and this film is filled with all of those.
Yeah, well, that's it.
Ending a horror movie like that way, it just seems like tradition at this point.
Yeah.
You leave it open, the alien egg or the monster egg or whatever. It's like you didn't get them all. There's always something.
I totally get that, but for me, I think this film stands firmly on its own merits. The little things it does, than all the merits that it kind of copied from other movies and then tries to make its own. So that's just me.
Well, Ian, what were your favourite or most memorable scenes from the film?
I had a few. I did like the alien stuff at the beginning. Like I said, it reminded me of Critters, and I did really like it when it turned into black and white and became 1959. And maybe I would have liked to have seen this movie stay in that era and be black and white all the way through. I don't think you would have been able to make it black and white, set it in the 80s and show it in the 80s, because the 80s was a very colourful time.
Exactly.
Showing somebody a black and white movie in the 80s, it's just causing trouble. Everything's a joke scene from JC to Chris. Like I said, I really relate to it. Some people say that to me, like, oh, you're always making fun and making a joke, because I have to... Everybody's so fucking serious all the time, and I'm fucking chasing everybody around like some goddamn lapdog. It's nice to be able to turn around and be like, fuck you, motherfucker. Yes, everything's a joke, but it's a joke because I'm doing the fucking work. Motherfucker. Yeah, JC. Bad death. The Karen and the cat scene. The film did it really well, where she was sat on her own and the cat came into the room. And you're like, oh, look, because I thought it might have been a slug. Yeah. The body had already turned up, but she got the cat and she was happy with it. And then the cat dies and comes back. And the special effect of it...
no, it's not too bad.
It's not too bad. And going in line with the dog's fun as well. Yeah. Maybe she got infected from there and it just took a little while. It's a plot point that leads nowhere, because Cynthia's like, oh, we don't know what to tell her about the cat. And you're like, did slugs come out of it? Did you set it on fire? What the fuck did you do with the body? I suppose my next favourite scenes are mainly just kind of incorporate the ending for this movie. I think that's what really makes people remember the movie, is this ending. All the guys and girls getting together, getting ready to get together, so that, you're going through the corridors and you see them getting drunk.
All the montages.
And the dresses, all the montages. The aliens getting ready to crash the truck. The zombies all coming back, the special effects. Tom Atkins and his one-liners. Like I said, I love the good news, bad news line. And I think it would have been a better movie for me. I think I personally prefer it with it just ending at the explosion.
Sure.
I don't need to see any aliens. I don't like the idea of more slugs being out there. Save it for Night of the Creeps 2 in German.
Yeah, the unofficial sequel. Fred Dekker said that he'll always do. He's always open to doing a Night of the Creeps 2, so long as Tom Atkins is willing on returning.
But he died.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, okay.
Well, I think this film is filled with memorable
I was gonna say,
and favourite moments. I think my absolute favourite moment is the zombified serial killer breaking up out of the ground and killing the den mother.
Yeah.
I just thought that was great. That really worked. I also loved just like these naked aliens running around the spaceship at the start. It was just like, what the hell am I looking at here? Seeing Tom Atkins in that white suit in the dream sequence,
Yeah.
awesome.
Pretty
The
badass.
zombie cat, brilliant. The bathroom slugs, when the slugs are just all going around the bathroom stall.
Yeah.
You know, and he's got the last match and he manages to kill one.
Yeah,
I thought
yeah.
that was a really well done sequence. And there's obviously a small Easter egg in there as well. There's some graffiti on one of the store walls which says the Monster Squad. So I was like, and this was a year before the Monster Squad.
Nice.
But yeah, that was a nice little touch there. And I guess I really liked the zombie makeup.
Yeah.
I thought it was, really well effective, pretty gory, but not too much.
Oh man, the guy who does the special effects for the zombies, I think will go on to do better effects for zombies.
Sure.
Maybe 20 odd years.
Well, Iain, do you recommend Night of the Creeps?
I do, but I also still, like I said, I still stand by the fact I think Slither is a better movie. I wouldn't say massively superior because I think both movies are just concoctions of movies that have come before them. You know, for Slither, they took ideas from the 50s and 60s and the 80s, and that's what works for them. With Night of the Creeps, obviously, you couldn't do that. You couldn't just take ideas from the 80s. You were living it. So all they really had were the 50s and 60s to go from. And those movies are incredibly serious. And so you had to add the comedy element. Does the comedy element work? Yes and no. It works really well, but just mainly for the situations that this film brings about. You know, it also, like, its jokes don't hit as well as other 80s horror movies that did jokes really well. I mean, off the top of my head, Primetime Bitch is still funnier than any of the jokes in the movie. But that's specific for that movie. If you've never seen Night of the Creeps, get it, watch it, have fun with it. If you have and you are hitting the comments section telling me that I'm completely insane, I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, Slither is still better.
Oh, I'm definitely going to be recommending Night of the Creeps.
Yeah.
And if you've never seen it before, you have to check out this film. It's an awesome throwback to the 1950s science fiction horror movies. You know, so much so the film, as we said, was almost shot in black and white.
Yep.
It has a good blend of comedy, action, and horror, rounded out with a great cast and memorable moments and quotable lines of dialogue. It's filled to the brim with all the tropes and cliches, but it's very self-aware and knows what it's spoofing, and it has been crafted with love. Watch this for the always brilliant Tom Atkins, who just steals every scene and is clearly loving every minute of it. Watch this for the bizarre-looking aliens, creepy slug monsters, zombies, axe-wielding psychos, possessed pets, boobs, blood, and 80s hair. The effects are really well done, and yes, some of the headshots and slugs going in and out of the mouths look obvious like fakes, but it's all just added to the charm. It's still very entertaining comedy horror that failed to find its audience upon release, but thanks to VHS rentals and word of mouth, this title has achieved the legendary status of cult classic. Watch this and scream like a banshee. Thanks for watching Off the Shelf Reviews.
Detective, thrill me.